Hey everyone, Chris Labatt here from SEOBANK.ca. Just want to continue on with our schema crash course part 5 and wanted to start out by giving a shout out. Thanks for all the love, shares. You got tons of comments here coming back. All the SEO community has been more than supportive, so I really appreciate it, guys. Lots of comments and likes, and that keeps me going. So I am always trying to produce the best possible value for guys watching here. And essentially what I thought for part 5 is I'd like to break this down into the most popular schema that you'd be using on your websites for SEO. So essentially with that, I'd like to start off with article schema template and then continue on from there. So I will be sharing this link in the comments below the YouTube video. So this goes over to Google Docs, guys, and I have to give props to a relatively new SEO group that doesn't have a lot of members currently right now. It only has 82 members, but these guys honestly are brilliant. Both Clinton Dixson as well as Daryl Osborne. They get credited with this template. I did adjust things a little bit, but Daryl even had gone back and just double checked my values. So anytime you get a kind of a community where you level up. I also had the guys at IMG, Internet Marketing Gold, and Lee Witcher and Kyle Roof took a look at it and they said, yeah, nice share. So going forward, if you're looking to get more increased relevance for both your on-page stuff, get a little bit better of a local boost for GMBs, schema, all the tests that I've seen as far as guys doing SEO testing around this stuff has seen more than a positive impact with rankings. Some guys, plus 40% as far as increases. So there's a lot of case studies out there supporting that schema is a brilliant thing to do. So let's have a look. I did create a new article here and had encoded the page with the schema markup. And so I've already copied the link into the Google structured data testing tool here. So we can go through each sort of value and take a look at, what we have. So at type, basically you're just telling, Google through schema, what type you're dealing with here. In this case, it's an article. The ID is the URL of your page, date published and date modified. So you can give two different values there, essentially, and you can see these here. So following schema markup, usually what you have is the identified schema on this side and then your value on the other side separated by colon and commas. I always use the markup tool if there's any errors or anything like that. If I backspace this and revalidate, you will should see an error here pop up right next to that field. And yeah, so uncategorized errors, you can click the error. It says missing a comma. Great. So it will show you literally what you have missed, and you can go back and make any edits as necessary. If you follow the schema template, all really you have to do is fill in the values. Everything else as far as the schema types here are already pre-populated. You just have to fill in essentially whatever it is from your article that needs to go in these values. So getting back to it, date published, so you can put in the date that the article was first created and date modified. This is great if you want to go back and essentially tell Google that you have modified or updated your content. This is great for content audits. The image of the page, so usually your hero image, and you can see here if I highlight the value here on the left-hand side, it also highlights the URL. So image is usually expecting a URL, and I will tell you sort of what each values are expected here. So under headline, very simple, just the headline of your article. So just copy and paste your title tag kind of verbatim in there. Now your ID, the ID is the specific URL of that article page. Same as, so same as here, basically you can create a really hyper relevant topic by posting either Wikipedia or sort of a microdata database of what exactly sort of you're talking about, or what the entity of the page is most relevant to. And in this case, we are an internet service provider. So you can see that essentially I'm telling, Google what the page is, but essentially I'm telling them through this Wikipedia URL how I fit into a topical category, and that category in this case is an ISP service provider, or internet service provider. Mentions is one that I love and don't see very often. So basically mentions is anything that you have mentioned in the article. So in this article in particular, we are also mentioning broadband technology. So again, just to nail down, what your article is about and being hyper relevant, topical relevance, increasing that score, you can put these values in here. So same as is super important. Also make use of the mentions, which essentially you can talk about what else you're speaking of in the article. At type audience. So this is a way for you to create schema and specifically identify your target audience, which is great. I didn't know about this. Again, credit goes to both Clinton and Daryl Osborne. So they had suggested put in type audience, homeowners and business owners. And I didn't know, I kind of expanded on this. So I took a look. I always go through the library on schema.org, and you can even put in sort of like geographical area of your ideal client, which is Essex County, Ontario for us. This is kind of like serviceable area. But usually you're using serviceable area within your local business schema or homepage schema. In this case, you can create a sort of a geographical area where your ideal clients live. Word count, so just basically plug it into Hemingway editor or your favorite text tool, pull the word count, and there you have it. Keywords. Now, it's interesting to note that in SEO, we don't have keywords anymore, but guess what? They're back. So you can put keywords separated by a comma. I don't know how much weighted SEO value they have, but they're asking for keywords again in schema, so we can utilize that as a tool. I'd fill them out. You don't have to get into keyword stuffing here, but I usually put 3 or 4. A about. So at type creative work. Basically what you're telling Google again is what this article about. So, I mean, you can already see here what we're trying to accomplish is essentially what is the article about? Topical relevance, sentiment, entities, same as is like, well, what is this entity related to? All of these sort of concepts where we're getting into the semantic web and SEO as far as, let me feel out your query. If you're feeding Google essentially, abstract ideas like user intent and or topical relevance or, all of these things combined give a complete and clearer picture to the algorithms on essentially what your content is about. So again, about type, it's creative work. So again, sort of like an article. And then the name value expects text. So you can literally just put in there what you wrote the article about and for and who. An article about how to get rural high-speed internet for homes and businesses across Essex County, Ontario. That can be changed to literally anything, and Google will parse that text and index it. Next value here, access mode. So this gets into essentially things like alt text and or how people are taking in the page. So I know Daryl Osborne again gave me a list of different things. Actually, I'd like to pop back there. The values expected here, you can use textual or visual. So if you have text, it's textual. If you have visual stuff on the page, like pictures or graphs, that's visual content. If you have a podcast on there, that would be audible. Now accessibility feature would be if you have anything for accessibility like alternative texts in your images, things like that. So let's pop back here and see if I can't find Daryl's comments. So it's right here in access mode, the human sensory perceptual system or cognitive faculty through which a person may process or perceive information. That is basically the definition of access mode from schema.org. And expected values here include auditory, tactile, textual, visual, color dependent, chart on visual. And again, everything is available on schema.org. We can create multiple at type. So you can see at type is in here a couple of times. One is giving relevance to the audience. Another one is a place. So this is now defining essentially where we're located with at type again. Postal address, and you just fill out address locality, which is kind of the region, address region, which is usually province or state, postal code or zip code, and then your physical street address. Under publisher, depending on if you're a news publisher and or a local business or organization, you can create the proper type here. And then at ID main URL, the name of the organization, and then image object, I'm giving them our logo here. So with specific height and width definitions. And then author, so publisher and author here are the same, but in this one we expanded out a little bit. We do have one same as here, which goes out to our Facebook property. So in Schema, you're trying to create nodes and relationships between not only what you're talking about, but essentially who you are as a brand or organization and tell Google where other entities or properties that you own are. So same as is essentially connecting your brand as an organization, who you are, what you talk about, all of your social media properties, and as well as giving contextual relevance, like pointing to a Wikipedia page. Yes, I'm an internet service provider. So I hope this all makes sense. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments. Here's main entity at type, local business ID. That would be your main homepage ID. Now, additional type is another way to do sort of relevance. So I just repeated internet service provider, but I did put in the second one here, we're specifically a rural internet provider. So I could probably go back and actually delete this one and just leave in this. So additional type is great when sort of the topic parent category doesn't give you enough specific relevance to who you are. So another great example of this is if you're sort of a painter, are you a commercial painter? Are you a residential painter? It gives a little bit more subtopic into your parent category topic, and most directories work like that. So Google My Business, they all say, after a period of time, do you have any subtopic or subcategories that you would like to describe your business as? The URL, that gives us the URL of the homepage. The name is basically the name of your business. Image, so again, we're just including the logo. Price range. So originally I had just, because in schema.org, it gives expected values of dollar signs. So you can kind of just put, it also takes text. You can put in here how many dollar signs, and that would sort of create a symbol for how much value or how much expected money people would pay for your products and services. Daryl, again, was kind enough to look at this particular markup, and he said, Chris, one thing you do better here is remove just the dollar signs and put an actual price range as far as values. So I have $59.95, which is our starting value for our packages, and then up to $109.95. So it does take text like that. It doesn't stop at just the dollar sign symbol. And if I find the markup on the right hand side here, did I see price range? I haven't found it yet. It will be here. So there you go. Price range, $59.95 to $109.95, and it likes that value. You can see at the top there is actually no errors, no warnings, which is perfect. At type postal address. So some of these things are repeating, but it's okay. I really like this one, main entity of the page, web page, and then speakable. Speakable specification in schema land is essentially allowing any assistant, either the Google Assistant and or Alexa or any other voice-driven search, to use specific sections of your article by giving it an ID class. So you can see here it says CSS selector and Google Assistant. Now I want to show you this back on the actual page. So if I go back and take a look at this page's code, just right click, view page source. I will find basically a CSS ID, which basically gives me that schema. So right here, Google Assistant, you can see this schema, but if I copy this and just do a find, I'm going to type that in there and I'll find the next value. There's the first one. And then you can see here. So I just have a paragraph tag here, and that class is set to Google Assistant. So if I were to do a voice search now, and it specifically was asking for this type of information, like how do I get high-speed internet near me, it will read back essentially anything that I have with this CSS class selector. So that has to be coded within your web page if you are going to use that. Now this value can be anything. I just like using Google Assistant. But having said that, whatever you program here has to match your CSS within your article here. So hopefully that makes sense. Pretty straightforward. Your class, as far as what wants to be read back to any individual doing a voice search, gets identified by whatever class you've programmed into the schema. Main entity of the page. Basically, I have that URL set to our CID of Google Maps. And essentially, again, you can kind of use these things where you're trying to tell Google what your page is about, what other entities are existing as far as your digital properties, and who you are as a brand. And essentially this URL here is pointing to our Google Maps. So it's much like doing Open Graph Protocol. So you kind of identified which social media properties belong to your business. And the same thing goes for things like same as and main entity of the page. And essentially what you're going to use in sort of those URL, same as, and main entity of the page kind of fields. So that gives Google this clear picture of how you're related online and which properties sort of belong to you. And that can create anything from rich snippets to a knowledge graph around your brand. The more you do this stuff, the more I see the benefits of it. So that's it. If you have any questions, you can post them down below. Please let me know how I'm doing, and as well as what you'd like to see next. I think I'll probably do homepage schema next because that makes sense. I just was excited about this and continue on learning. So I did want to mention too really quickly that Martha from SchemaApp has offered a free advanced schema. I don't know if they offer a certification course, but it is a full course. If you are subscribing to the SchemaApp tool, you do have access to that. So I've been going through that. I do have a couple of other sort of online courses under my belt around schema, but it is immense. Like there is no end to what you can learn from the schema.org library. So the more we all jump on the train here and kind of share experience, the better. So I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks very much. Chris Labatt from SEOBANK.ca. Let me know what you want to see next. So if there's anything else, we'll probably do question and answers, some breadcrumb stuff. But if you have any particular schema you'd like to see, let me know. I'll get some templates together and we'll keep rocking and rolling from there. Thanks.